word you use?
Spoilers.
Spoilers. Spoilers. Spoilers. Spoilers. Spoilers. I like that word.
I thought you might.
Hello everyone and welcome to this festive edition of Missing Presumed Lost, because today we'll be looking at Doctor Who's first ever Christmas special, The Feast of Stephen. So here we are, slap bang in the middle, more or less, of a dark Dalek story which features evil dictators, dead companions, and of course, the Daleks. So in this episode, it's only natural that the TARDIS crew find themselves in foggy London, and then later on interrupting a Hollywood film. Oh, and Charlie Chaplin and Bing Crosby pop up at one point as well. As far as the story goes, it certainly comes out of left field in comparison to all the other episodes in the Daleks' master plan. But as Doctor Who's first ever Christmas special, it certainly is something to behold. So as I'm sure you all know by now, it's at this point that I would talk about the general story, some of my favourite bits, etc. But that's where we run into a little bit of a problem. Because you see, whilst The Feast of Stephen is a very fun little mini episode, it is just that, a mini episode. Not only does it not continue the Daleks' master plan main story, but in itself, it doesn't really have a story. It's more just a random series of events and mishaps that the Doctor and companions find themselves in. First, the trio land in London, and the Doctor finds himself being questioned by the police about the TARDIS.
I don't think you really understand. That object in the yard out there isn't really a police box.
No, of course it's not. It's a New Brighton ferry.
And then, after escaping London, they find themselves in Hollywood, interrupting a film, with Stephen being mistaken for an extra, and the Doctor mistaken for a historic advisor.
I'm Professor Webster!
So overall, there isn't really very much to talk about in terms of story. But in a way, that's a good thing. Because it means, as it's so unrelated to the Daleks' master plan during which this story takes place, this little one-off episode can be enjoyed without needing any prior knowledge of the aforementioned serial. Christmas is a time for joy and happiness, so I apologise in advance for the dampener I'm about to put on proceedings. Because The Feast of Stephen was classed as a Christmas episode, it was deemed of no sales value, as it would have to only be shown, really, on Christmas Day. As such, when overseas TV stations bought Doctor Who for broadcast in their countries, The Feast of Stephen wasn't included, and the Daleks' master plan was sold as an 11-part story rather than a 12-part. Because of this, The Feast of Stephen became the first ever episode of Doctor Who to be scrapped by the BBC archives. And because no 16mm black and white film tele-recording was made for international distribution, the only known recording of it was on its original master tape, which sadly, like many tapes later on, was wiped. This, in turn, means that The Feast of Stephen is one of those missing Doctor Who stories that is confirmed to be gone forever. Now, in part 1 of my Daleks Master Plan review, I said I was going to leave out the reconstruction rating until I'd reviewed the full story. But I decided to put it back in for this episode for a very special reason. As many of you will be aware, this year, 2018, will be the first year that the revived series doesn't have a Christmas special, instead giving us a New Year's special. But it got me thinking, if the BBC decided to follow this line in future, then perhaps we could get a Christmas special in another way. What if the BBC animated The Feast of Stephen to be broadcast on Christmas Day in the original black and white, with a colour repeat following on Boxing Day? Granted, it wouldn't be as long as a new series Christmas special, but as I've mentioned before, you don't need prior knowledge of the Daleks' master plan to enjoy it, and I know it would certainly be very popular among fans if it was broadcast on TV. Or possibly, to make up the time in the slot that needs to be filled, the BBC could animate both Mission to the Unknown and The Feast of Stephen as a kind of double feature showing, which would add up to a runtime of 50 minutes. And both of these animations could later be released on DVD and or in time as part of a full Daleks Master Plan animation release. Alternatively, another idea, albeit a more costly one, which would probably mean we wouldn't get a new series special that year, could be to have the episode entirely reshot with a live cast, perhaps using the BBC's own studios doubling for the Hollywood studios, and seeing David Bradley return as the first Doctor.
A Merry Christmas to all of you at home.
Like the rest of the Daleks master plan, it is a shame that this story is missing, but as long as you don't mind a stills reconstruction, it's still very much worth watching as some Doctor Who festive fun. Now, I was planning at this point to say that you could check out my reaction video that I did way back in 2015, but for some unfathomable reason, despite the fact that it's been unchallenged on YouTube for 3 years, this year the BBC have decided to block that reaction video, but also block my 2015 Christmas special in which that appeared. Let's just hope they don't do the same to this video. Either way, I would thoroughly recommend checking out the Feast of Stephen if you get the chance. It might not be what it once was, but it still hasn't lost any of its fun, festive charm. But that brings to a close another Review Who. As always, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like, favorite, subscribe, share, it really helps me out a lot, and be sure to check out the description below for a link to my Patreon. I'm doing my very first figure animation, and you can get involved. There's exclusive content and rewards for those who do so, and funding my Patreon in any way gets your name at the end of my videos. I salute you all, and I will see you in another video very soon.